My name is Amelia Collins, and for the last 14 years, I served as the operations manager at Collins & Sons Transport, a family-run logistics company my grandfather founded back in 1962 with nothing but an old pickup truck and a dream. My office wasn't fancy. No floor-to-ceiling windows or plush leather chairs. Instead, it was a small corner space overlooking the docks, filled with the hum of machinery and the steady rhythm of a team I'd built from scratch. Every day, I oversaw the schedules, the shipments, and the steady flow of trucks rolling in and out of our sprawling yard. I knew every driver by name, every warehouse manager's birthday, and every maintenance log by heart. But everything changed the day my older brother, Nathan, took over as CEO. Nathan always had a talent for making an entrance, big speeches, shiny suits, and boardroom charm. I preferred hard work and quiet dedication. But when Nathan called me into the conference room that Thursday morning, something felt off. There was a new energy in the air, fake smiles, flashy presentations, and that new consultant from Wilmington Partners who kept labeling me as too old school whenever I left the room. I had no idea my entire world was about to shatter. It was supposed to be a routine Thursday morning. I'd barely finished my first cup of coffee when Nathan summoned me to the main conference room. The room felt different that day, colder, as though the air itself had been replaced by the sterile chill of corporate ambition. Nathan stood at the head of the long oak table, his posture confident, his smile forced. Two board members sat stiffly on either side of him, and a third figure, a woman in a navy suit with a Wilmington Partners badge, watched me with a look of polite disdain. "Amelia," Nathan began, his tone oddly formal, "thank you for coming in early." He didn't meet my eyes. He'd always been the type to avoid confrontation, to smooth things over with charm rather than honesty. I glanced around the room, searching for any sign that this was just a strategy meeting. Another endless discussion about supply chain efficiency or cost-saving initiatives. But the tension in the air told me otherwise. "Is this about the new warehouse rollout?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "We're ahead of schedule on." "It's not about the warehouse," Nathan interrupted, his voice tight. "It's about the company's future." I blinked, taken aback. "The company's future?" "Nathan, I've spent the last 14 years. You've done good work here." "Amelia," he cut in, still refusing to meet my gaze. "But the board and I have decided we need leadership that aligns with the future we're building." My chest tightened. "Leadership? I've been managing this company's operations since you were still learning how to balance a budget." The Wilmington consultant leaned forward, her lips curling into a half-smirk. "Ms. Collins, the logistics industry is evolving rapidly. Automation, digital integration, market disruptions. We need to be adaptable. Progressive, I repeated, my voice trembling with disbelief. "So you're saying I'm the problem?" Nathan finally looked up at me, his eyes as cold as the steel yard gates outside. "It's a restructuring, Amelia, effective immediately. You're no longer needed here." The words struck like a slap. I felt the breath catch in my throat. For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't speak. I looked around the table, waiting for someone, anyone, to challenge him, to remind him who had kept the wheels turning, who had trained the staff, who had kept the lights on when times were tough. No one did. "You're serious," I whispered. Nathan sighed, as though he was the one being wronged. "It's not personal." "Of course it's personal," I shot back, my voice rising. "You're firing your own sister. Don't make this harder than it has to be," he said flatly. "The severance package has been prepared. It's generous. It includes an NDA and a non-compete. Everything's in order." He slid a sleek navy folder across the table. I stared at it like it might burn my hands. "Is this because of the Wilmington Partners consultant?" I demanded. "Because I wouldn't sign off on that AI routing system? Because I wouldn't let you cut drivers to save a few dollars on payroll?" Nathan's jaw tightened. "It's bigger than that." I picked up the folder, my hands shaking. "What about the vendor integration plan? The multimodal partnerships I've been negotiating? The Harborview contract that's up for renewal next month?" "We'll manage," he said, his tone dismissive. That word, manage, like everything I'd built could be handled by someone with a fresh MBA and a fancy suit. I stood up, my chair scraping against the polished wood. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. Fine, I said, my voice cold. You want to build your empire? Build it, but don't come crying to me when the foundation crumbles. Nathan's expression barely changed. I'm sorry you feel that way. But he wasn't sorry. Not really. I turned and walked out of the room. My steps felt heavy, like I was wading through mud. The walls of the hallway blurred as tears threatened to spill. But I refused to let them see me cry. Not here, not now. At my office, I found a small box already waiting on my desk. Someone had thought ahead. Inside were my personal belongings. A framed photo of Grandpa Collins standing next to his first delivery truck. A chipped coffee mug from my first warehouse shift. A collection of thank you notes from staff over the years. I placed Grandpa's photo on top of the box and exhaled shakily. A knock came at the door. I turned to see Grace, one of the senior accounting managers, standing in the doorway. Her eyes were rimmed red. She didn't say anything at first. She just stood there, her hand clutching the doorframe like it was the only thing holding her up. I'm sorry, she finally whispered. I managed a tight smile. Me too. For a long moment, we stood in silence, the hum of the warehouse floor below filling the air between us. Then something shifted inside me, not grief, not anger, clarity. Nathan thought he could replace me. He thought the company could survive without the person who'd built its operational backbone. What he didn't know was that I'd spent the last 18 months working closely with our largest vendor, Atlas Link Logistics, to develop a customized routing system that had saved them millions in annual shipping costs. That contract wasn't with Collins and Sons. It was with me. Grandpa's voice echoed in my mind. Don't just build your name, Amelia. Build your leverage. I closed the box slowly and picked it up. I paused for a moment, looking at my reflection in the dark window glass. Nathan had just opened the door to a future he couldn't control. I didn't cry. I didn't plead. I simply walked away. Out of a job? Maybe, but not out of options. Not even close. I spent the next 48 hours in a haze of adrenaline and disbelief. Every time I thought about Nathan's cold dismissal, a fresh wave of anger churned in my chest. But I refused to let him define me. Or worse, defeat me. Early Saturday morning, I met with Marcus Everett, CEO of Atlas Link Logistics, at a small cafe overlooking the waterfront. He greeted me with a warm handshake and a sympathetic smile. Amelia, I heard what happened, he said, voice low and steady. I can't believe Nathan would let you go like that. He didn't let me go, I replied, my voice cold. He fired me. Marcus's jaw tightened. Well, their loss. I sipped my coffee, gathering my thoughts. I didn't come here for pity, I said, my tone sharp. I came here with a proposition. He leaned forward, curiosity flickering in his eyes. I'm listening. I opened my worn leather portfolio and laid out the details of the proprietary routing system I'd been developing with his operations team. This system has already saved you $4.5 million in annual shipping inefficiencies. I explained. Imagine what it could do if fully integrated under a single, consolidated logistics network, one that puts people and clients first, not boardroom politics. Marcus's eyes widened. Are you saying? I'm saying I want to form a new company. I interrupted. One that merges your operational strengths with my logistical expertise. We'll call it Everett Collins Logistics, and together, we'll become the backbone of every major shipping route on the eastern seaboard. A slow smile spread across his face. I knew you were good, Amelia, he said, but this is next level. I nodded. All I need is your vote of confidence, and your signature. Marcus didn't hesitate. You've got it. By Monday morning, news broke that Atlas Link Logistics had terminated its multi-million-dollar contract with Collins and Sons Transport, citing misalignment of operational values. Nathan's face must have turned the color of curdled milk when he saw that headline. At 9:13 a.m., my phone rang. Nathan's number lit up the screen like a distress beacon. I answered on the second ring. This is Amelia Collins, I said, my voice level and steady. Amelia. Nathan's voice cracked with panic. We have a problem. Atlas Link. I didn't let him finish. Atlas Link is now part of Everett Collins Logistics, I said coolly. We've finalized the paperwork. Silence. Long. Heavy silence. He stammered. You're running Atlas Link now? Not exactly, I replied, but I'm the managing director of Everett Collins Logistics. And yes, we now control your largest vendor. A small, strangled sound escaped his lips. Amelia, you can't. I can, I said, and I have. He tried to regain control. We had contracts. I cut him off. That contract expired last quarter. Marcus tried to renew. You ignored his calls. You were too busy playing CEO to see the walls caving in. He was breathing heavily now, desperation creeping into his voice. Amelia, please, we have shipments scheduled. You can't just sever this relationship. He said, voice rising in pitch. You can't just. Oh, but I can, I said, my voice like ice, because while you were busy future-proofing the company, I was building the future. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. I ended the call before he could respond. That afternoon, my phone buzzed nonstop. Calls, texts, emails from staff who had once trusted me, and now found themselves at the mercy of Nathan's mismanagement. Grace called first, her voice trembling. Amelia, the drivers are idle. Warehouse 3 ran out of containers. The client from Harborview is threatening to sue over a missed shipment. I listened, calm and resolute. I'm sorry, Grace, I said, but I don't work there anymore. But Amelia, I sighed. Listen, I know it's chaos right now, but I can't fix this for Nathan. He made his choices. Even as I spoke the words, I felt a pang of guilt. These people had depended on me. They'd trusted me. I couldn't abandon them completely, no matter how much Nathan deserved it. That night, I called Miguel, my old warehouse manager from the Brooklyn facility. He joined me at Everett Collins, his loyalty unwavering. Miguel, I said, my voice low, how soon could we deploy extra containers and drivers to support routes in the Northeast Corridor? He didn't even hesitate. By sunrise. Amelia, for you, always. Keep it quiet, I instructed. No press releases, no announcements. We're not poaching, we're helping. He chuckled softly. You're still the same boss I remember. I hung up and closed my eyes. Nathan had underestimated me. He thought I was soft, too close to the staff, too emotional. But what he didn't understand was that those relationships, the ones he dismissed as weaknesses, were the reason Collins and Sons had survived as long as it did. I wasn't out for revenge. I was out to protect the people who made that company more than a logo on a truck. The next morning, my phone rang again. This time it was Vanessa, a board member I hadn't spoken to since Nathan's coronation. Amelia, she said cautiously, we're in crisis. 4 of our biggest clients have threatened to leave. Nathan says it's a vendor issue. But, I exhaled sharply, but the vendor issue started when Nathan fired the person managing the relationships. I finished for her. Yes, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. I know you have your own company now. But you're hoping I'll help. I said. Silence. Then, would you? I let the pause hang for a moment. Then replied evenly. I'll consider it, I said, but not on his terms. Only on mine. And in that moment, I realized that my fight wasn't just about proving Nathan wrong. It was about proving something bigger. That the quiet ones, the loyal ones, the ones who built the real foundations of a company, deserved a seat at the table too. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Nathan's face in that boardroom. The way he avoided my gaze. The cold efficiency with which he'd cut me loose. But in the darkness, I also saw something else. The warehouse floors I'd walked for years. The drivers I'd laughed with over midnight coffee. The managers who'd trusted me to fight for them when no one else would. Somewhere between midnight and dawn, I realized I was done waiting for someone else to fix things. Nathan wasn't going to ask for my help. Not in any way that mattered. But maybe that was the point. He didn't need to. Because the future of Collins and Sons Transport wasn't in his hands anymore. It was in mine. By sunrise, I'd made my decision. I called Marcus at Atlas Link, now my partner at Everett Collins Logistics, and laid out a plan that would solidify our position as the most reliable logistics provider on the eastern seaboard. Nathan's scrambling, I told him. His warehouses are in chaos. His staff demoralized. And his clients on the verge of jumping ship. We have a window. Maybe 2 weeks. before he finds a stopgap solution. Marcus didn't hesitate. You're the architect here, Amelia. Tell me what you need. Resources, I said. Extra drivers, additional containers, and the green light to discreetly support former Collins and Sons clients who are about to be left in the lurch. He exhaled a slow, satisfied breath. Consider it done. I hung up and turned to my small team at Everett Collins, Miguel, Grace, who'd left Collins and Sons that morning, and a handful of others who'd chosen loyalty over stability. They gathered around the battered conference table in our modest office, eyes bright with anticipation. I'm not here to burn bridges, I told them, voice steady, but I won't stand by while Nathan lets everything we built collapse. We're going to help those clients. We're going to keep those routes running. And we're going to show every driver, every warehouse crew, every client exactly who made that company strong in the first place. Miguel's grin was wide and fearless. I'll call the night crews. They'll jump at the chance. Grace's eyes shone. Amelia, she whispered, you're going to save them. But I shook my head. No, I said quietly, we're going to save them. That afternoon, I received an email from Vanessa. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. The board is fracturing, she wrote. Nathan's leadership is being questioned. They're looking for alternatives. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. I'm not interested in taking over. I typed, I've built something of my own now. But I will help, on one condition. Her reply came within minutes. Name it. I want full transparency. I wrote, access to every financial statement, every vendor contract, every staffing report. No more secrets. No more boardroom politics. Vanessa didn't argue. Done, she wrote. And just like that, the invisible chains that had bound me to that family legacy began to loosen. The next day, I arrived at Collins and Sons headquarters for the first time since I'd been fired. The building felt different now, like a relic of another life. The lobby still gleamed with polished floors and corporate pride, but there was a hollow hush in the air, as if everyone inside was holding their breath. Vanessa met me at the entrance, her expression a mix of relief and guilt. Thank you for coming, she said softly. I nodded, but my eyes were already scanning the faces of people I'd once called colleagues, some who had stayed silent while Nathan pushed me out, others who'd fought quietly from the shadows. In the boardroom, I sat across from Nathan's empty chair. He wasn't there. Vanessa said he was indisposed, though everyone knew he was probably holed up in his office, trying to salvage whatever dignity he had left. The board looked tired, their polished facades cracked by weeks of stress. Gregory, who'd once called me just logistics, cleared his throat nervously. Amelia, he began, we're facing a crisis. Clients are leaving. Staff are resigning. We've lost nearly 40% of our operational capacity in the last month. I met his gaze without blinking. And why do you think that is? He shifted uncomfortably. Leadership issues. Vendor relationships. Vendor relationships you neglected, I said evenly, and leadership you allowed to run unchecked. Silence. Some board members looked down at their notes. Others stared at me like they'd only just realized I wasn't the problem. I stood, feeling the weight of every conversation, every decision, every sleepless night I'd spent holding that company together. I gave everything to this place, I said, my voice cracking slightly. I trained the staff, negotiated the contracts, built the systems, and when Nathan decided I didn't fit his vision, he threw it all away. Vanessa's eyes glistened. Amelia, we need your help. I drew a long breath. I'll help, I said, but not for him. For the people who still believe in this company. And for the clients who deserve better. The room let out a collective sigh, like a weight had been lifted. But understand this, I added, I'm not coming back to be your band-aid. I'm not here to put out fires Nathan started. If I step in, I want the authority to fix what's broken, and the respect to do it my way. Vanessa nodded, her voice trembling. You'll have it. As I left the boardroom, I felt a shift inside me. A shedding of old loyalties and old wounds. I realized that Nathan had never truly understood the essence of leadership. It wasn't about titles or flashy presentations. It was about showing up for the people who needed you, even when it was hard. Back at Everett Collins Logistics, my team was waiting with updates, shipments rerouted, drivers deployed, Clients reassured. Grace handed me a file of handwritten notes from warehouse staff. Thank yous. Offers to help. Stories of nights when we'd kept the lights on together. I felt something stir in my chest. Not revenge. Not even vindication. It was something deeper. Purpose. That night, I stood by the old shipping yard in the fading light, watching trucks roll in and out under the glow of overhead lamps. I thought of Grandpa Collins, the man who'd built this world with nothing but a truck and a dream. I thought of every driver, every warehouse worker, every client who'd placed their trust in us. Nathan might have worn the title, but I'd carried the company. And now I carried something even stronger, a vision of what a real logistics company could be. One built not on showmanship, but on grit, trust, and the kind of loyalty you couldn't buy. I pulled out my phone and dialed Vanessa. Tell the board, I said, I'm in. The boardroom felt different now. The same long oak table, the same polished floors, but the air was charged with a sense of urgency and vulnerability that had been missing before. Vanessa stood by the whiteboard, her notes scrawled in frantic loops, while Gregory flipped through financial statements like he was searching for a lifeline. Amelia, Vanessa said, her voice trembling, we need you to step in, formally. Not as a consultant, but as interim CEO. I stood at the far end of the table, hands folded, watching the faces of people who had once dismissed me as just operations. Some looked desperate, others ashamed. I let the silence build until the tension cracked like glass. I'm not here to be your savior, I said finally. I'm here to build something real, something lasting. But if I'm going to take that on, I need more than a title. Gregory looked up, his eyes wary. What do you want, Amelia? I met his gaze unflinchingly. I want full authority to restructure the leadership team. I want control over vendor negotiations. And I want to bring in my own people. People I trust to get this company back on track. A ripple of discomfort spread through the room. Vanessa cleared her throat. You're asking us to hand you the keys. I'm asking you to trust me. I corrected. Because the truth is, you've all trusted the wrong people for too long. Gregory exhaled slowly, nodding. She's right, he said, his voice low. We wouldn't be in this mess if we'd listened to her in the first place. Vanessa raised her head. Then let's vote. They didn't hesitate this time. 7 votes. Unanimous. The motion passed. I was officially CEO of Collins and Sons Transport, or what was left of it. I left the boardroom with my head high. But inside, my mind was already racing. I had 2 weeks, maybe 3, before clients abandoned ship completely. My first move had to be stabilizing operations. I gathered my core team, Grace, Miguel, and Marcus, around the battered table in our small conference room at Everett Collins Logistics. We're not here to gloat, I said. We're here to build. Collins and Sons is still a legacy worth saving. But it's broken, and fixing it starts with people. Grace leaned forward, her eyes fierce. What's the plan, Amelia? First, I said, we bring back the people who built this place from the ground up. The drivers, the warehouse managers, the logistics coordinators. I want personal calls made to every single one of them. They need to know that Collins and Sons is under new leadership, and that their loyalty is being repaid. Miguel grinned. I'll get the lists. Half of them already called me looking for work. Second, I continued, we reach out to the clients Nathan neglected. Harborview, Eastland, Portwell. I want face-to-face meetings, no emails, no cold calls. We look them in the eye and promise them that the company they trusted is back in good hands. Marcus spoke up, his voice steady. And the vendors? I nodded. I've spent years building those relationships. We rebuild trust. We offer incentives, realistic timelines, transparency. Let them see that Collins and Sons can be reliable again. Grace let out a breath. That's a lot of work in a short time. I smiled. That's why we're the ones doing it. The team scattered, phones ringing, laptops glowing as the pieces of the company I'd once held together began to align again. I felt a thrill in my chest, a spark of hope I hadn't let myself feel in months. But the challenges came fast. That evening, Vanessa called me from her office. Amelia, she said, her voice tense. Nathan's reached out to a private investor, someone who's offering a quick cash infusion in exchange for a minority stake. My gut clenched. Who? He won't say, Vanessa replied. He's asking the board to vote tomorrow morning. I stood silent for a moment. Nathan's desperation was dangerous. He'd sell the company's soul just to save his pride. Vanessa, I said, voice calm but firm. Stall him. She hesitated. I'll try, but we need an alternative. If we don't have capital. We do, I said. Leave it to me. I ended the call and immediately reached out to Marcus. I need your help, I said. Name it, he replied. I need a bridge loan, enough to keep operations running while we stabilize the company. In exchange, I'll offer equity, minority stake. No board seat, just a silent partnership. Marcus didn't even flinch. You're the best investment I've made in years. He said, send me the paperwork. By sunrise, the deal was in place. Collins and Sons had the capital it needed, without selling its soul to a mystery investor. The board convened at 9 a.m. sharp. Nathan arrived, tie askew, face pale, his usual bravado replaced by a nervous energy that was impossible to miss. I've secured funding, he announced, voice tight. A private investor is ready to commit $4 million in exchange for a seat on the board. Gregory frowned. Who's the investor? Nathan hesitated, his eyes darting around the table. They've asked to remain confidential until the vote is complete. I rose from my seat, folder in hand. I have a better offer, I said, my voice cutting through the tension like a blade. Nathan's head snapped up, eyes narrowing. You. I ignored him. I've secured a bridge loan from Marcus Everett. The terms are fair, minority stake. No board seat, no interference in operations. Enough capital to keep the company afloat while we rebuild. Gregory's eyes widened. That's transparent, I finished. Unlike Nathan's offer, the board didn't hesitate. 7 votes. Nathan's offer was rejected. Mine was accepted. Nathan's face crumpled. You think you can just... I met his gaze, steady and unwavering. I can. And I have. The board chair leaned forward. Amelia, the company is yours. I nodded, feeling a surge of determination. Then let's get to work. As I walked out of that boardroom, I felt the weight of a legacy pressing on my shoulders, but also the thrill of opportunity. Collins and Sons wasn't just a logistics company anymore. It was a second chance, a chance to build something better, stronger, and more humane. And this time, I wasn't just the backbone. I was the architect. The days that followed felt like a blur of controlled chaos. My phone buzzed from sunrise to midnight. Messages from warehouse managers who'd never had the courage to call before. Texts from clients who'd left but wanted to come back. And calls from staff who'd stayed because they believed in something more than a paycheck. Every morning, I walked into the office earlier than everyone else. The air was cold, the hallways dim, but the feeling was electric. For the first time in months, the company felt alive again, not because of glossy PowerPoints or new slogans, but because people felt seen. One Thursday, I arrived to find Grace waiting at my desk with a stack of reports. She looked exhausted but determined. Amelia, she said, I pulled the numbers you asked for. Employee turnover is down 10% this week. And client retention is up 12%. Warehouse 4 hit 95% on-time delivery yesterday for the first time in 2 months. I felt a surge of pride. That's the power of leadership that listens, I said, my voice soft but strong. Grace smiled, her eyes bright with hope. It's the power of you, she whispered. But I knew better. It wasn't just me. It was every forklift driver who stayed late to help a colleague. Every dispatcher who answered the phone on a Sunday. Every warehouse manager who took the time to learn a driver's kid's name. One afternoon, I found Miguel in the yard, sleeves rolled up, helping a team unload a shipment. He grinned when he saw me. Couldn't resist getting my hands dirty, he said. I laughed, the sound surprising even me. That's why I kept you around, I teased. He wiped sweat from his brow. Eyes serious now. You know, Amelia, I think this company's finally starting to feel like it used to. Like a family. I nodded, the words sinking deep. That's the point, I said. That's what Nathan never understood. You can't fake family. You build it, every day. Later that evening, as the office quieted, I walked through the dispatch center, stopping to chat with the night crew. One of the newer dispatchers, Liam, looked up from his console. his face lined with fatigue but a small smile playing at his lips. "Hey, Amelia," he said, his voice tinged with relief. "Thanks for being here. Where else would I be?" I replied. He shook his head. "I've worked at places where the boss doesn't even know my name." "You know everyone's name." I shrugged, though my heart warmed. It's the only way to lead. That night, I stayed late reviewing the operational plans for the next quarter. Grace had flagged several vendor contracts that Nathan's team had neglected, some with hidden auto-renew clauses, others with price hikes that would have sunk us in weeks. I pored over every line, every clause, every footnote. This was my way of protecting what we'd built. No shortcuts. No handshakes behind closed doors. Around midnight, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to see Grace holding 2 cups of steaming coffee. "You're still here," she said softly. I smiled, accepting the cup. "So are you." She sat beside me, her eyes heavy with exhaustion. "Do you ever think about leaving?" she asked. I considered her question. "Sometimes," I admitted, "but then I remember why I stayed. This company was never just a job to me. It was a promise, to my grandfather, to the people who kept the lights on, to every driver who trusted me with their livelihoods." Grace's eyes glistened. "He'd be proud of you," she whispered. I felt a lump in my throat. "I hope so," I said. The next morning, I called a staff meeting in the old break room, a place I'd fought to keep from being turned into another conference space. The walls were scuffed, the chairs mismatched, but it felt real, lived in, like the heart of the company. I stood at the front, scanning the faces, some familiar, others new, all of them looking at me with a mixture of hope and caution. "I know it's been a hard few months," I began. "I know you've watched leaders come and go, watched promises made and broken. I know you've seen decisions that didn't make sense, that put your jobs, and your trust, at risk." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. "But I'm here to tell you that ends now," I continued, my voice steady. "This isn't about slogans or flashy consultants. This is about rebuilding the trust that made this company what it was. And that starts with me, but it doesn't end with me." I saw Grace's eyes shining with pride. Miguel stood in the back, arms crossed, nodding slowly. "This is your company as much as it's mine," I said. "Your ideas, your commitment, your resilience, that's what's going to bring Collins and Sons back to life. And I promise you this, I'll never forget the names of the people who made it possible." The room erupted in quiet applause. Not the polite, boardroom kind, but the kind that meant something. As the meeting broke up, people stopped to shake my hand, to share a smile, to tell me stories of the old days, of times when the company felt like home. And I realized that was the key. Collins and Sons had always been more than a logistics firm. It was a community, a living, breathing testament to the power of people who cared. That night, as I walked through the warehouse, I felt a sense of calm I hadn't felt in months. Nathan's shadow was fading, replaced by the glow of possibility. I paused by Dock 3, running my fingers over the old brass plaque we'd installed years ago, in memory of Harold Collins, who taught us that the strongest parts of a company are the ones you can't see. My grandfather had known it all along. And now, so did I. I wasn't here to chase titles or prove myself to anyone. I was here to build a legacy that would outlast every CEO, every board meeting, every quarterly report. Because at the end of the day, leadership wasn't about the biggest office or the fanciest suit. It was about showing up, day after day, night after night, for the people who made it all matter. And that's exactly what I planned to do. 6 months had passed since I'd reclaimed Collins and Sons, and the warehouse floors buzzed with a new kind of energy, one that wasn't born of desperation or fear, but of purpose. Every time I walked the halls, I saw signs of progress, whiteboards covered in plans, shipping manifests humming with activity, laughter echoing from the break rooms. One bright Friday morning, I arrived early, as I always did. The sun was still low on the horizon, casting long golden beams across the parking lot. I paused for a moment, letting the cool air fill my lungs. It felt like a fresh start every single day. Inside, the main operations hub was a hive of motion, drivers double-checking manifests, dispatchers coordinating routes, managers strategizing for the weekend rush. And in the middle of it all stood Grace, clipboard in hand, giving instructions with a confidence that reminded me so much of myself at her age. She spotted me and grinned. "You're here early, boss." I laughed. "You'd think I'd sleep in by now, wouldn't you?" She shook her head. "Not you." Her words warmed my heart. By 9 a.m., I was sitting in the newly renovated conference room, no longer a cold glass fortress, but a space filled with plants, warm wood, and a massive table that invited collaboration instead of intimidation. Around me sat my team: Miguel, Grace, Marcus, our silent partner turned steady friend, and the warehouse managers who had stood by me when no one else did. "Today," I began, "we're not here to talk about contracts or shipments. We're here to talk about the future." Miguel leaned forward, his eyes alive with anticipation. "Lay it on us." I took a deep breath, letting the weight of the moment settle. For too long, Collins and Sons was about one thing: making money. That's not why Grandpa started this company. He built it to provide opportunities, good jobs, a sense of pride, a place where people mattered. Grace nodded, her eyes misty. "He'd be proud of what you've done, Amelia." I smiled, but it felt bittersweet. "I hope so," I said quietly, "because I'm not done yet." I stood, moving to the whiteboard. "We're going to invest in people," I said firmly. "We're launching a leadership development program. Every warehouse manager, every dispatcher, every driver who wants a future here gets a chance to lead." The room erupted in quiet applause. "And we're not stopping there," I continued. "We're rolling out full benefits again, reinstating tuition assistance, and establishing a hardship fund for employees who hit tough times. No one who works here will ever feel alone again." Miguel let out a low whistle. "That's bold." I turned to him. "It's right," I said. As the meeting wrapped up, Grace pulled me aside. "Do you ever think about how far you've come?" she asked softly. I hesitated, then nodded. "All the time," I admitted, "especially on days like this." After the meeting, I made my way out to the loading dock. It had always been my favorite place, the heartbeat of the company. Trucks rumbled in and out, drivers waved, and the smell of diesel and fresh coffee blended into something oddly comforting. I spotted Liam, the young dispatcher who'd once thanked me for knowing his name, standing by a stack of pallets, scanning manifests. He looked up and grinned. "Hey, Amelia." "Hey, Liam," I replied. "How's it going?" He chuckled. "Busy, but good." I nodded. "That's all I need to hear." He hesitated. "You know, a lot of us, me, the drivers, the warehouse crew, we used to think you were just logistics. You know, but now," he paused, his voice thick with emotion, "now we know you're the heart of this place." I felt my throat tighten, but I managed a smile. "Thank you, Liam, that means more than you know." As the sun climbed higher, I walked back through the yard, every step echoing with memories. Grandpa's stories, my first day as a warehouse clerk, the day Nathan fired me, the day I came back stronger. At the edge of the lot, near Dock 3, I found Miguel leaning against a stack of crates, arms crossed, watching the trucks roll by. "You did it, Amelia," he said simply. I shook my head. "We did it," I corrected. He grinned. "That's why you're the boss." I thought back to the boardroom. The tense vote that had given me control. The deal with Marcus that had saved the company from Nathan's desperation. Every decision, every risk, it had all led here. But this wasn't just my victory. It was every driver who'd pulled double shifts to keep a promise. Every manager who'd worked overtime to cover gaps. Every client who'd given us a second chance. This was for them. That evening, I walked through the office one last time before heading home. The place felt different now, alive, hopeful, resilient. I paused by the old brass plaque at Dock 3, fingers tracing the worn letters, in memory of Harold Collins, who taught us that the strongest parts of any company are the ones you can't see. I whispered a quiet prayer. "Thank you, Grandpa, for everything." As I turned to leave, my phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. "Congrats, Amelia. The industry's watching. They're calling us the company that rebuilt itself from the inside out." I smiled. That was the legacy I wanted. Outside, the evening air was crisp, the sky painted in streaks of gold and crimson. I took a deep breath and felt the weight of the past lift off my shoulders. I wasn't just a logistics manager anymore. I was a leader, a builder, a protector of something bigger than any one person. And in that moment, I knew legacy wasn't about power or titles. It was about the people you chose to lift up, the trust you nurtured, the resilience you forged in the darkest nights. I turned, my steps steady, my heart light, and I walked into the future we'd all built, together. Standing at Dock 3 that day, I finally understood what my grandfather had meant when he said the strongest parts of a company are the ones you can't see. It's not about the big offices, the board meetings, or the shiny logos. It's about the quiet resilience, the unwavering loyalty, the late nights and early mornings, the people who show up when no one's watching. I learned that leadership isn't about holding power, it's about holding people together. It's about listening more than speaking, about trusting your team and letting them trust you back. It's about knowing that every decision, every choice you make, shapes the future not just for the company but for every person who calls it home. That's the lesson I carry forward. A leader's legacy isn't measured in titles or accolades. It's measured in the strength of the people they've nurtured, the trust they've earned, and the foundation they've built, one that will hold long after they're gone. In real life, the story of Amelia teaches us that in any workplace, whether it's logistics, healthcare, education, or tech, the backbone of success lies in the people, the quiet contributors, the everyday heroes, the team members who make things run smoothly even when no one's watching. If you're a leader, or hope to be one, start by building trust and treating your team like family. Know their names, their strengths, their struggles, invest in their growth, show up when it's hard, because when challenges come, and they always do, it's the strength of those relationships that will carry you through. Remember, leadership isn't a title. It's a promise to stand beside your people and build something meaningful, together. Thank you for choosing to listen to this story among thousands of stories out there. Like and subscribe to continue listening to the latest stories.